Hello, everybody, and you're very welcome back to the channel. So, to all our new subscribers, all our new viewers, you're very, very welcome. And of course, to all our regular viewers and regular contributors to the channel, you're welcome as always. And thank you very much for all your input from last week's video. This week's video, again, is a little bit different, different format. I do have a history lesson on the Austin Tractor Company, or the tractor end of the Austin company. Short story, just with some audio and some visuals, some nice pictures here. But other than that, it will just be a quick story. It's all that I have time for this week. So we'll get straight into it. So Austin Herbert, he was a member of a committee set up by the government to look at producing a UK tractor, as at that time they had been imported from America and not really suited to the small farms in England. To supply the UK with tractors in World War One, Henry Ford agreed to place all his patents and some of his staff at the government's service free of charge. His only proviso was that the tractors should not be sold. All parts of these machines were produced in the United States and shipped to England for assembly at the government workshops in Manchester. So this all took time, of course, so Austin took the opportunity of selling American products because at that time his works were only producing for the Ministry of Munitions. So when the Fordson MOM tractor was available in 1918 and became very popular, it was time for Austin to bring out his own version using the Heavy 20 engine, which could be ordered as either a petrol-only engine or as a dual petrol-paraffin version. The dual system was common practice for tractors, which meant that they had two fuel tanks, both connected up to a two-way tap. So when starting from cold, you would use the petrol. So when the engine had warmed up, you could then turn the tap so that it was now running on paraffin. And of course, the reason for this was the fact that there was no tax on paraffin. The engines were considered to be more powerful at 26.5 horsepower at 1000 RPM for the petrol version, and also more refined than the Fordson, but they did not have the reliability. So when running on paraffin, the power output was reduced to 23.7 horsepower at 1000 RPM, but it was launched in 1919 and production built up slowly so that in week ending the 12th of June 1920, 66 tractors had been produced. So approximately 1,500 tractors were built that year at a selling price of between £300 and £360, depending, of course, on the specification. The American Fordson was being imported and sold at roughly the same price, but they were subjected to an import tax of 33%. This duty was removed, allowing the Fordson to undercut the Austin considerably. So Austin had to follow suit and slash the price to £225 and then down further to £195. But the boom, as far as they was concerned, that was at an end. Demand for the tractor in France was high, but the government had imposed heavy duties on imports. To conserve the success gained by the company's agricultural tractors in France and to overcome the high duties and rates of exchange and the difficulties and expense of transport, and also to meet the natural desire of the French farmers to purchase tractors made in France, the board decided during the past year to increase its capital of the French company known as SAA to 10 million francs and to establish and equip a factory there. So that factory was in Liancourt in Paris. So a very suitable factory was purchased by the company's agricultural tractors in France, situated on the main Nord Railway, midway between Amiens and Paris, in a district noted for its industrial advantages. The whole of the necessary power plant, machine tools, jigs and gauges required have been sent over from Longbridge Works and were now installed and manufacture commenced. An output of 2,000 tractors per annum was anticipated, and satisfactory arrangements had been made for the sale over a period of 5 years to the eminent firm of French agricultural engineers, T.H. Pelter of Paris. The Austin Motor Company Limited owned roughly about three quarters of the capital of the French company, and they received suitable royalties for the use of their patents, trademarks, goodwill, etc. With sales of tractors initially handled by T.H. Pelter of Paris, who had depots and agents throughout France and the French colonies. But in the middle of January 1921, after delivering about 200 tractors, and although contracted for the output of the factory for about 5 years, suddenly stopped taking delivery, and so manufacturing had to cut down to almost nothing until a new selling organization could be set up. Austin estimated that the additional funding will only be required for a short period of between 1 to 2 years in order to enable the directors to complete the establishment of a sales organization. In order to keep the factory going at a remunerative rate during the slack season of the year, the manufacture of other agricultural machines was being undertaken for which the plant was suitable, including a small tractor cultivator for vineyard use. French agricultural experts singled the Austin vehicle out for special praise, which no doubt helped sales, the main component coming from Longbridge. In 1926, the catalogues were showing a price of £225 for the normal tractor or £285 for the 20-ton road haulage version. But sales did not increase as projected, so around 1932 production ceased at Longbridge but continued in France. In fact, tractors from the French factory were imported into the UK in small numbers up to 1939, but in about 1951 the factory closed down. The main reason for its demise is that it could not compete on price compared with the Fordson. It appears that around 1918 or 1919, an American tractor company called FC Austin Company of Chicago was taken to court by the Austin Motor Company because, using allegedly deceptive name. So the drawing here shows various changes that have been made since the experimental tractor. The back wheels were increased in diameter from 3 foot to 3 foot 6, and the rims were narrowed from 14 inches to 10 inches, which has been found to be more suitable width for general use. The seat, steering wheel, and change lever have been placed in a more convenient position. The footrests have been added, and the clutch pedal is of the push type. The wheel guards and brakes are shown in the drawings, and also the canopy, which is an extra. A large toolbox which connects the wheel guards is shown in this picture, and the detachable front belt pulley is indicated here as E. The radiator filler cap is of the special pattern and of very large dimensions, so that water may be poured in from a bucket or a similar receptacle. In figure 2, the bonnet is shown broken away so that the engine may be more clearly seen. And in figure 1, the canopy and bonnet is merely indicated by dotted lines for similar reasons. So when we take a look at the engine, so there's 4 cylinders, 3 3/4 inch bore by 5-inch stroke, so that's roughly 95 by 127 millimeters, which developed 25 horsepower at 1200 RPM when paraffin is used as fuel, and 25.5 horsepower at 1000 RPM on petrol. The cylinder casting is of the monoblock type, and it's fitted with a detachable head. The crankshaft is supported on live 5 bearings, or 5 live bearings even, and the whole engine is of a very simple and substantial design. So the Austin 12 tractor, so this tractor, which is on display at Guernsey, was built by the DeGaris brothers, Eustace and Fred, during the end of 1944 and was taxed on the 3rd of February 1944. It was built up from various components, as at that time parts were obviously very scarce. The engine and gearbox were from an Austin 12 coupled to a Vulcan Bus rear axle, which had rear wheels from a German truck. The chassis came from an unknown lorry. Front axle was a Citroen 12 with front wheels off a Morris 8. Cooling was by means of a Citroen radiator. So this is a real hybrid sort of machine. It was used during the occupation for ploughing, carting seaweed, etc. and mowing. It could also be made to drive a circular saw by jacking up one rear wheel and putting a belt on that wheel. On Liberation Day, on the 9th of May 1945, it towed a trailer to transport people from the country area into the town. It remained in regular use, doing various tasks up until 1988. And that's really where we're leaving it. That is the short story of the Austin Tractor Company. I'm sure there's a lot more you could tell, but that is all I have time for today. That is the Austin tractor end of the Austin Motor Company. So yeah, if anybody has anything they'd like to share, if they have one or driven one or have seen one, I'm sure they are pretty rare at this stage. There's probably more of them around France than there is around UK and certainly Ireland. So yeah, if anybody has anything they'd like to share, if they've seen one or driven one or worked on one or owned one or has one, restored one, I'd love to hear from you. So that's it. So until next week, I'll be back with a more regular video next Sunday. So until then, everybody have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.